Hello and good day everyone. Today I will be sharing some information about parents and grandparents sponsorship, which the submission of the expression of interest, or for short EOI, or the interest to sponsor form will open on Tuesday, October 13th until November 3rd, 2020. There are three parts of or videos I made about parents grandparents. This first video is the basic information about parents grandparents and the information on who can be called the sponsor and co-sponsor. The second part or the second video is the most requested part, which is the minimum income requirement and the calculation of the family size. And the third and last video is we're discussing about who can be sponsored as parent and grandparent. So in this first video, we have 7 topics. So first, when and how to submit the expression of interest. Second, what to include in the expression of interest. Third, who can be a sponsor and who can be the co-sponsor. Fourth, who can't sponsor a parent and grandparent. Fifth, what documents to provide. Sixth, what's next after submission of EOI. And seventh, what are the fees. So first is when and how to submit this expression of interest or EOI. On the noon of Eastern Daylight Time or EDT of October 13th until the noon of Eastern Daylight Time of November 3rd, the submission of the interest to sponsor form will open. That means you have 3 weeks, a 3-week window to submit your EOI if you are eligible. The submission of EOI will be online in the Government of Canada website, and I will also be posting the link in our page when it is available. For those sponsors with mental or physical disability, you can email or call Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada before noon of November 3rd, 2020 if you prefer Braille, large font, or paper submission. So what to include in this EOI? So you as the sponsor must enter the following information. So first, your complete name, which is your family name, which is also called last name or surname, and your given name, also known as first name and middle name. Second is your date of birth, then your country or territory of birth. Fourth, your main home address, where you are currently living, and it should be in Canada. Fifth, your email address that you want IRCC to contact you. Sixth, the number of family size, which I will discuss in my second video. Seventh is the information of the sponsored parent or grandparent, which are their names and date of birth. Eighth, your passport or your proof of status in Canada document number. You have to attach a copy of this document upon submission of EOI in a PDF format. And lastly, your electronic signature. So before planning to submit your EOI this Tuesday, stop, look, and listen. Just joking, but stop. Please check and make sure that you are eligible and your co-sponsor is eligible before submission of EOI. So who can sponsor parent and grandparent? So you can sponsor your parent and grandparents if you are at least 18 years old, you are a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident of Canada, or an Indian registered under the Canadian Indian Act. Third, you have to live in Canada. So you cannot submit EOI if you are currently living outside Canada. And lastly, you have enough income to support the persons you want to sponsor, or you had met the minimum income requirement, or MNI. The above are the four basic eligibility of being a sponsor. And as a sponsor, it is a huge responsibility. You will sign an undertaking and sponsorship agreement that commits you to provide financial support of your sponsored family members for 20 years upon starting on the day that become permanent resident. And you are also committed to repay any federal and provincial social assistance or money from the government that your sponsored family members get during those 20 years. So it's not really an easy responsibility, okay? So that is for 20 years. And the sponsorship agreement states that you'll provide basic support and basic needs of your sponsored family members, including clothing, shelter, food, and then the person you sponsor will also make every effort to support themselves and their family members. So when you apply for the sponsorship, you'll have to complete and sign a form that includes the undertaking and then the sponsorship agreement. Once your parent or once your sponsored parent or grandparent become a permanent resident, they can get the same benefit of you as a permanent resident or Canadian citizen. Of course, the difference of the two, except to vote or to run for a government position. But for parents and grandparents, if they will apply for social assistance or welfare, and the government find out that they were sponsored parent grandparent, you have to repay back to the provincial or the federal government whatever money was given to them. So who can't sponsor a parent or grandparent? You can sponsor your parent or grandparent if you are below 18 years old and you won't live in Canada upon submission of the EOI and when your parents or grandparents become permanent resident. You should be inside Canada. Okay, and then you cannot be a sponsor if you're not a permanent resident, not a Canadian citizen, or not a person registered in Canada as Indian under the Canadian Indian Act. You cannot also sponsor if you are a temporary resident in Canada. So that means if you are a visitor, your worker or student, and if your permanent residency is still on process. And lastly, you cannot sponsor if your proof of income doesn't show that you meet that you have enough income to support the family size. Other eligibility requirements that make you ineligible to be a sponsor for parents and grandparents are if you are in jail, prison, or penitentiary. Second, if you didn't pay back an immigration loan, a performance bond, or a court-ordered family support like alimony or child support. Third, if you didn't give financial support, you agreed that when you signed previously, if you sponsored someone in the past. Fourth, if you declared bankruptcy and you're not yet discharged. Fifth, if you receive social assistance for a reason other than disability. Sixth, you were convicted of a crime, a violent criminal offense, and any offense against a relative or any sexual offense inside or outside Canada. And lastly, if you can't legally stay in Canada and must leave the country because you receive a removal order. There may be other reasons that make you ineligible to sponsor your parents and grandparents before or after submission and during processing of the application. The processing visa officer will gonna determine and assess the application, and they will tell you why you are not eligible. So what documents to provide? I mentioned a while ago that in the submission of EOI, you only need to provide, you as a sponsor, your proof of status in Canada. There are lists of possible documents of proof of status. I will write it down in the description of this video. I want you to know that EOI is not yet a permanent resident application. It is just an expression of interest. It's like you're saying, "Hey Canada, I want to sponsor my parent or grandparent," and that you meet the eligibility requirement as a sponsor. So I said it is not yet an application. So you are just giving your basic information I mentioned a while ago and your proof of status in Canada. But once you are lucky to be drawn and you will receive an invitation to apply as a sponsor, that's the time that you are given 60 days to provide necessary documents and forms as a sponsor. And the same with your sponsored parent and parents, they have to provide the mandatory documents and forms. There will be a document checklist, but I want to let you know for now that what you need to show as your proof of income is your CRA NOA. So what is CRA NOA? It is the Canada Revenue Agency Notice of Assessment. This is the document you will receive yearly after you had filed your tax in Canada. So even if you have a lot of assets, properties, and investments inside or outside Canada, but you did not declare in your tax submission, you cannot use it as a proof of income for parents-grandparent sponsorship. Actually, you don't even need to provide your copies of your notice of assessment upon submission of the permanent residency. You just have to click yes, that you give consent to IRCC that they can contact CRA to check on your income. That means whatever you had declared in your tax, that's all that they can see in there. So if you're hiding some money under your bed, you have to declare it so that it can be added to your income to support us to be eligible for the parents-grandparent sponsorship. So what's next after the submission of the EOIs? For this year, the selection of sponsors will be drawn randomly. It is not a first-come, first-served basis. IRCC will only allow one EOI per sponsor. So after the 3-week window, they will close the submission form and they will sort and delete those duplicate EOIs. And only the last will be retained. So please do not submit more than one EOI. If you're thinking the more EOIs, the more chances of winning or the more chances to receive the invitation to apply, you're wrong. So determine carefully your eligibility as well as your co-sponsor, which is your spouse and common law partners only. And the same with your parents and grandparents before submitting your expression of interest or EOI. Lastly, the fees. There is no fee in submitting EOI, but once you are lucky to be drawn and before you can submit the application for sponsorship and permanent residency of your parents or grandparents, the fees are $75 as a sponsorship fee, $475 for the principal applicant processing fee, and the right of permanent residence fee or the landing fee, which is $500. So that is if you're sponsoring your father. So if your mother is accompanying, you have to pay $550 for processing fee and then the $500 landing fee or the right of permanent residence fee. If there is a dependent child or your brother and or dependent brother and sister, you have to pay 150 Canadian dollars. So what is considered dependent child of your parent and grandparent? I will discuss that in my third video. The current processing time for parents and grandparents is 20 to 24 months. So make sure that you are eligible upon submission of EOI. That is for the 3 years, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So if the permanent residency will be decided in 2021 or 2022, you have to meet the income in those years and the eligibility as a sponsor. That is until there's a decision of the parents grandparents sponsorship. So for 2020, there will be 10,000 lucky sponsors to be drawn. So please do not waste those spots. Almost every year, there's only like less than 50% that are able to submit application or eligible to be sponsored. So if you are drawn and later on you realize that you are not eligible as a sponsor, you cannot give this invitation to apply to a different potential sponsor. So again, no need to rush in the submission of expression of interest. Assess yourself, including your co-sponsor. And if you have some doubts, you can reach out to us. So thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for my second and third video about parents and grandparents. Bye-bye.